Okay, so I just decided it was too risky to attempt to put that queen cage in the Caucasian hive. I think they need a third day of queenlessness. However, something interesting happened because I was unsure if it was a warm reception or not. I did take the cork out with the screw, and some of the workers grabbed the cork and eagerly took it into their hive. I also set the screw down on top of one of their frames and they grabbed the screw and took it into their hive. And so I'm thinking maybe that will help them get familiar with the scent of that particular queen in her cage. And this is a second queen that I brought out to see if I could introduce to this split that I made yesterday. This split is from my second Caucasian colony to make up for what a wimpy nuke he sold me last year. The breeder, or I shouldn't say breeder, he's really more of a reseller of the original Caucasians, offered to send me a queen for free this year because we had to go through some pretty amazing hoops just to get that colony to survive the winter, and it included my local bee minter donating a couple of frames of brood from his own apiary. So I went ahead and made a split early this spring from my BeeWeaver survivor colony. I put 3 frames of cap brood and a frame of resource in half of my Palmer style double nuke. And I introduced the free Caucasian queen to them. They accepted her immediately. I actually direct released her. It was a beautiful thing. Nothing like the mixed reviews my original Caucasians are giving me as I try to requeen them. Well, a couple weeks ago I found 5 capped supersedure cells in their hive, and so I went in yesterday to try to pull those supersedure cells to put in this little homemade nuke that I've constructed with my extremely rough woodworking skills. And the cells had hatched, and I actually saw one virgin queen running around all spazzy. And because I didn't know if she had returned from her mating flight or not, or if there were more virgin queens in there and they just hadn't battled it out to the death yet. I didn't find eggs, but she could have just freshly returned and not started laying yet. I didn't want to run the risk of my BeeWeaver queen being rejected because of the virgins that they did manage to hatch out. So I closed up that hive, and out of my Carniolans side, I was able to take out 2 medium frames of brood and 1 deep frame of brood and a frame of pollen. And the other side of the pollen frame is still left empty for them to draw out. Now this looks like a much warmer reception. These guys have only been queenless in this nuke for less than 24 hours, probably 21 hours, because I was in that hive pretty late last night. It was brutal. I really hate pinching queens. At any rate, I don't see anybody balling in half on this one. Trying to get their little stingers in. I can't really see what my camera's doing because the sun's so bright, so I hope that I'm getting a good video here. So it could just be that these are all much younger bees, so they're a lot less defensive, because I brought this nuke over to this part of my garden away from their original hive, and I did allow a small entrance opening so any older workers could drift back to their original colony. So it could just be that these are all just little baby nurse bees. There are no guards developed yet, no foragers, and that might be why they're much nicer and receptive to this queen than my older established Caucasian girls below. But I want to say that this is likely going to be a successful introduction because I still see no attempts at stinging. Just a lot of tongues going in there. Happy little butts up in the air instead of curled over, bent in half, trying to sting. Let's see if I can move them with my finger. I don't like to do this because I'm worried that I'll set off alarm pheromone, but this is supposed to be the test and they're all letting go of that screen so much easier. This is definitely an acceptance. So I'm going to go ahead and pull the cork end on this cage and wedge this queen cage into in between frames, and I'll have to take a separate video of that part because I need more hands. Okay, so unintentional BeeWeaver nuke colony acceptance, I'm going to call a success for now. Let me get her wedged in between frames.